I know some of you wouldn't believe me. But if a lie asked me good friend Mackie, it was a big lying competition to see who they will crown as lying champion. Liars from all parts of the West Indies, big shot liars from all them foreign countries. From a feel about 1,000 or so entry in 2 days, he boiled down and leave just 3. I had me eye on liar the lion, because I know he does come with some good ones. But they had a younger fella named Debo, come from some village there in Tobago. He said his father is Tobago's best fisherman. Catch a fish a mile wide, 80 feet in span. He had to tie it on the boat and swim back to land to get his brother Eric to give him a hand. You hear lie? That is lie. Lie? You hear lie? Teacher Pussy say if you tell a lie, you're going to hell as soon as you die. Why, sir? Check it out. Liar the lion, he laughed till he sweat. He said, Mr. Depot, ain't said nothing yet. If you really want to hear about fishing, let me blow your mind. Now listen to something. When you're talking about fish, you just hit the spot. I was hoping you did believe it or not. The fish your father caught, to you it was great. But it's them small fish my father does use for bait. Lion went ahead on points in the show. Completely eliminated Mr. Depot. The next man to beat was really outrageous. He asked the judges if he could lie first. The judges asked Lion. The Lion agreed. Say any topic will pick is alright with me. The outrageous, I strong, let we meet head on. And when we done, see who head fit to wear the crown. You hear lie? That is lie. Lie? You hear lie? Teacher Pussy say if you tell a lie, you're going to hell as soon as you die. Let it go. Let it go. Choke it up. Yep. The outrageous.
All right. Hey, guess what? You're not going to be seeing my face. We just got to get a few things. We got to get a few things so that you guys can understand the distraction. And it's coming from all over. And you've got to be careful with the distractions. You've got to be able to put two and two together to understand what is happening as it pertains to the quote unquote Venezuelan guy who was arrested, according to the police. He was arrested. They claim that they're investigating him. And all we have been saying on 107.1 FM, you cannot take everything the police say with a spoon of salt. You just got to be careful. You cannot grab anything that the corrupt PPP regime is saying on their goons. And this guy, critic, who was very close to Azardine Mohammed, the Mohammeds, they fed him, they supported him. He took their monies. He did all sort of things. They fattened him. All sort of things they have done. They were friends. They were buddies. They were close pal. They fed him when he was hungry. And so you've got to be careful with these guys. First of all, if the corrupt PPP regime they allow a lunatic like critic, because that is what he is, a lunatic. He's a mad guy. He doesn't have any experience. He doesn't have any academic qualifications. He has absolutely nothing. He's a madman roaming around. And so we have listened to the police press conference, mind you, and very smart people, experienced people, people who have investigative background, people who have degrees, people who have law enforcement experience. And I would tell you that uh, a lot didn't come out of the police press conference yesterday. And so people have a right to question. And so, with the history of the Guyana police force, you got to take things with a grain of salt, mind you, because they're accustomed to torturing people into confessions. And we have given examples of these sort of things. But mind you, suddenly critic and the friends and the lunatics like him are good friends with the police now, right? Because they're getting their favors and so forth. And so when these individuals come to divert attention, and you know, I don't listen to this guy, I don't watch him, but someone brought to my attention that he claims now, of all person, me, all of you guys know that the Mohammeds, they're not in my book. They're not my cup of tea. I've been after them for a while and I continue to be after them. Now, you've got to be a madman to say Ben Shop getting paid by whom? All of you know that I believe that Maduro should be in jail, that Maduro is a madman. I've maintained that. I've been consistent. I continue to say that is a madman. Azruddin Mohammed and these guys have serious indictments against them. If the Americans want to pick them up and just send them and put them wherever the evidence laid. I have been consistent with that. And so you've got to be a madman. And as we know, Critic is a madman. And this is what is dangerous for a country. When you have a madman like this roaming around. Now, take a listen to this mad guy. And he's allowed to get away with these things. Well, probably when he returns to the US, if he does, and then he gets a couple of lawsuits, who knows? But listen to this. Listen to this madman. That's what he is, a madman.
The PNC, they know way wrong though. Who dealing with gold and gold smuggling? Who got heavy connections in Region 1? Now the distraction. Who paid off Rickford Burke, Mark Benchcap, Norman Brown?
So now this mad guy, because he is not objective. He cannot be objective. He's not a bright guy. No experience, probably no sort of experience. And so, you know, he pops out of here. And any one of you, look, I'm not afraid of these type of lunatics, mind you. Well, how on earth you gonna, somebody like me who believe that the Mohammeds have done a lot to hurt Guyana? My opinion, based on facts, evidence, whatever is out there. I've been consistent. What lunatic would want to link me? It's not like I'm afraid of anything but me, of all person, to the Mohammeds and to Maduro. You've got to be kidding me, right? And so this mad guy is allowed to get away with these things. And look, he has had linkage with the Mohammeds. They went to bed together, so to speak, politically speaking, economically. The Mohammeds them gave him money. They fed him. They did all sort of things to him. They rescued him when he was a loopy dog. And so now he turned against them. And every single thing, and this is what I'm saying, if there is going to be an investigation, let it be done properly. Even before an investigation started, they already know who did it. They already know who is connected to what, and these sort of things. And you've got to be careful with these type of lunatics. You've got to be careful with the type of lunatics and critic these kind of guys. Again, they have no experience, no work experience. They have no qualifications. They have nothing. And suddenly he feels that he's an investigator. Suddenly, but he's not going to tell you guys about the $1 billion contract that they got, that they robbed the Guyanese taxpayers and these things. They're not focusing in those areas because they're full out criminals. That's what they are. And so without the conclusion of the investigation, without the conclusion of an investigation, they already know who is gold smuggled. Well, look, the Mohammeds, them, according to information, they have been in this gold smuggling business for a while, years now. according to indictments, according to evidence, to the grand jury. Well, those are things that are known. But what they don't want to tell you is that if they say that the Mohammeds are gold smugglers, okay. But the Mohammeds are not the only gold smugglers in Guyana. The PPP regime, they have within their close circles gold smugglers right now in the PPP regime. So they're not going to tell you all of these things. They're not going to wait until a comprehensive investigation is done so that folks can get to the bottom of what really transpired, who is connected to who, and what was the real reason that this guy, the police say that it is him, this guy planted that explosion, that explosive substance or device at that gas station. So there got to be a proper investigation done all across the board. You cannot just because you have issues with one individual that you're going to dump everything. And you guys know my views of the Mohammeds, right? This I don't give a rat's, you know what about them, right? And I've made my point pellucid from day one. Now, if you have a couple of suspects, then you're able to interview those suspects. You're able to get to the bottom. You're able to ask questions. Who have you done this on behalf of? Who paid you? Who's the mastermind? Because sometimes these guys don't even know who the mastermind is, because somebody other than who the real culprit is would have somebody beneath them to go out and do their dirty work. And so all of these things the police force have got to get to the bottom of. Now, citizens don't trust the police force. Citizens do not trust the police force to conduct this sort of investigation. And so bumps are obviously going to raise. And so you have lunatics like a critic is going to go out there talking. He doesn't know what he's saying. Not a bright guy. He's basically, in my book, he's a dunce. No experience, no nothing. And that's the problem in Guyana. They cannot sit and think things through objectively. It is always some scampishness, some sort of deal. And they believe that everyone is like them. So they take the Guyanese taxpayers' monies, they rob the Guyanese taxpayers, they rob individuals, and all these sort of things. And so the diversion is coming directly from them. Now, let us look at this objectively, sensibly. Somebody should tag him. Now, if this guy, they're claiming that this guy is the suspect, fair enough. Let them conduct an independent investigations into this matter. Let them invite the FBI, let them invite someone, let them do that. Let them do that. Let them invite those individuals to conduct an independent investigations, because citizens, majority of Guyanese, and this is what the numbskulls like Critic can't understand, the majority of Guyanese have no confidence in the Guyana police force, whether it is this investigation, whether it's the investigations concerning the murder of Adriana Young. All of these investigations, let an independent team of investigators conduct the investigation. And nothing is different from this here. So now, if this guy is the suspect, as the police claims, then cover every area. Cover the owner of the gas station, whether there's any problem or they have problems with anyone, whether there's any allegations of fuel smuggling. So you do a comprehensive investigation. A primary school child probably would know that. And so because they have personal issues with individuals, like the sanctioned Mohammed and so forth, so every single thing without an investigation being completed is going to be dumped because they have issues with the Mohammeds. Now, you guys know my views of the Mohammeds. If they're guilty of any crime, let them pay it. But if the investigation leads in the direction of the Mohammeds, well, so be it. But you do not know that unless there is a proper investigation. You do not know who sent this individual here. And so you can't jump and say because the Mohammeds are accused of smuggling gold, that it is the Mohammeds. Nobody knows that for sure. Nobody knows that as yet. There is no evidence pointing in that direction. That's all I'm saying. There's no evidence. Now, what about the other gold smugglers in Guyana? Should all of them be painted with the same brush as well? Well, you might as well paint all of the gold smugglers with the same brush. And so, if gold smuggling is an issue, then let an independent international investigator or investigators let them do the investigations. You cannot depend on the Guyana police force for this because it's not going to lead anywhere proper. The Guyana police force, they have an issue, they have a reputation of torturing people, coercing people into confessions and so forth. And if we want to get to the bottom of these investigations, then it must be done properly across the board without any political interferences, without any interferences from lunatics like a critic and these other guys. It has got to be done properly. If it is not done properly, then all Guyanese will left wide open and they will be at risk. That is all. It is a sensible thing to do. That is how you conduct investigations, mind you. You do not conduct investigations by, oh, one man is a suspect alone, story done. Because you have personal issues with that one man. And because people are speaking objectively, bumps are raising right now. Now, this is the same police force, and this is the same critic also who jumped to defend a Mohammed when Mohammed was accused of the murder of Paper Shorts. And back then, we all were bad guys, according to critic, while he was defending the Mohammeds and so forth and so on. And there was no proper investigations into the murder of Paper Shorts. At that time, he was good buddies. The commissioner of police, acting commissioner of police, they were good buddies with the Mohammeds. All of these things here we saw. Even Irfan Ali, good buddy friends with the Mohammeds. Even this crazy guy, Mohammed, what's his name? Critic, crazy guy, critic, and all of them were good buddy friends with the Mohammeds. And so because they're all enemies right now, they want you guys to help them fight their battle. Now, none of them going to help me fight a battle because they are pointing a finger in the direction of Mohammed, Azruddin Mohammed, with that bombing, that people must jump with them because they have issues, personal issues with the Mohammeds. Now, I don't have any personal issues with the Mohammeds other than they're accused of gold smuggling and all manner of things. And again, y'all know my position on the Mohammeds, them, right? I have no regards for them. I have no regards to their party. Absolutely nothing. So now, because they have personal beef with the Mohammeds, and this bombing suspect is automatically linked to the Mohammeds. And so they want you guys to buy their version. And because you refuse to buy their version, their bumps raise. And so they go on a live and they say this and this, all these things. All these things they're saying now because their bumps raise. They do not want people to think independently. They do not want people to be objective. And so they have the madman, again, this madman critic, no proper schooling, no education, no qualifications, no experience. Suddenly, he becomes an expert in investigations. Suddenly, and so you guys have got to be careful if you observe what is going on as of now. And this is what we want to hear. So far, we are hearing that they have this suspect and they have others as well. But you're only seeing just one suspect. You're not seeing the other suspects. You don't know what is going on. And so you, the public, I've had people inboxing me to say that they are scared. They are afraid. They're in Guyana right now. They are afraid because they don't know what is happening. These are the same guys when Irfan Ali and Jack Dewan, these guys were saying, oh, let the people come into the country, all because it suits their purpose of registering to vote and propping up the voters list to suit them in the PPP. So it was okay now for all, whether the Venezuelans or whomever, to cross the border and go into Guyana and issue them ID cards. They were doing well. They loved that. And it's the same critic who, at his construction firm or whatever, hires same Venezuelan guys, and they were good. Who would probably, in their mind, ask the question whether critic and other PPP officials, whether critic has hired Venezuelan nationals who are connected to Maduro's army and so forth. Who knows? Those are legitimate questions. Who knows? Now, suddenly, they want to be self-righteous. They want to pretend as though they are there to protect Guyana, whilst they're stealing from taxpayers, because he cannot answer to the almost $1 billion contract. What is happening to it? Nothing. And so here's the distraction. The distraction, in my opinion, mind you, it's got to be about gold. Right? It can't be about anything else. It can't be about drugs. It can't be about fuel smuggling. It can't be about anything else. To them, it's got to be about gold. Gold. And their number one suspect is Azruddin Mohammed. It's got to be about gold smuggling because they can't think. The likes of a critic, you cannot expect him to think. There's no rationality. There's nothing. You take a look at this program, is bare craziness all day long. And that is what Guyana has reduced to. Crazy people like these guys. Uneducated individuals like a critic. And so you guys have to be very careful. Now let's get back to the investigations. They came out yesterday, the police, at a so-called press conference, in order to brainwash individuals. In my opinion, and lots of people who are big and they have sense and they have experience and they have qualifications would know that what the police said last night amounts to absolutely nothing, because they want you guys to believe that, guess what, this guy traveled all the way, he has never entered Guyana. And now we want to make this clear. We want to make this clear, and I've done look, this is not to brag or whatever. I do have an advanced degree in police investigations. All of my degrees, whether it's a bachelor's, whether it's master's, whether it's advanced certificates in criminal justice work, police investigations, cybercrime, terrorism. Those are my studies and my qualifications. So, of course, if you were to compare me with that mad guy, you would understand what I'm trying to say here. So you've got to look at an investigation from all angles, and then you take a piece of information here and evidence there, and based on the preponderance of evidence, wherever it leads, you're able to conclude that this is the reason that this crime was committed. And so you have to look at every angle. Is it a terrorism act, an act of terrorism, where the government of Venezuela or some criminal enterprise in Venezuela that's connected to Maduro sent this guy to Guyana to plant a bomb on Regent Street at a gas station, at that particular gas station? Not at a mall, not anywhere else, because I'm sure he could have gone into a crowded area, maybe a mall, maybe somewhere, and placed a bomb in a garbage bin and just walked out and ignite it. But no, it wasn't done like that. But because Looney Tunes and lunatics like a critic, they can't understand that level of thinking. And so this guy, we are to believe, left Venezuela Sunday morning, early morning, wherever it is, and traveled to Guyana, never went to Guyana before, doesn't speak English, according to the police, mind you, not me, according to the police. We are going by what the police said. And so this guy, the police, they want us to believe that this guy traveled all the way from Venezuela with a bomb in his crutch or somewhere and passed all of those police roadblocks and immigration checkpoints. Just like that. Just like that, they want us to believe this is what happened, right? I don't know. Now, I'm not buying that story. But because people refuse to buy these sort of stories, these folks bumps raise. It's as though they're selling you Polari. The Polari sour, sour, sour. And because you're refusing to buy and eat the Polari, they're vexed, the bumps raise. So for them, they're panicking. They're panicking because you have an objective, you have an independent view. They can't stomach it, they can't accept it because it doesn't it doesn't fit their narrative of things. And that is exactly what's happening. That is exactly what's going on. So, for me, in my opinion, the PPP and the Guyana Police Force, especially the Guyana Police Force, they have to come out and tell the people. Now, I'm not saying in an investigation, when an investigation is ongoing, that everything has to be told. No, some things you keep back because some things are important enough not to divulge, especially if you're looking for other suspects. That's how an investigation is done. But you don't throw a cast net and just reel in just like that and say you catch a fish. And you cast net and even reach back on solid ground, but you catch a fish. You catch somebody, story done. People must shut up. Because you have personal, and mind you, personal issues. They have personal issues with the Mohammeds. I have no personal issues with them. I have issues with gold smuggling. I have issues with fuel smuggling. I have issues with people who are cheating taxpayers of hundreds of millions of dollars. And the accusations is not just about the Mohammeds, because people already can point fingers at Critic, who got a contract for almost $1 billion Guyana dollars, wasted taxpayers' money, but the pump station can't finish. But every morning or whatever, whether in his car, he pumping out nonsense from his mouth and want people to believe that he is the realest thing in Guyana. This is the realest thing in Guyana? Well, something is wrong with Guyana. But he didn't know this, though. He didn't know to speak up when he was confronted here.
I don't know. Who's that one? Low lights and hungry bellies. I don't know. Who's that one? Low lights and hungry bellies.
Okay, so and I know exactly those guys in the plane. Those guys are good guys. Trust me. When they said low life and hungry, they know exactly what they were saying. And congratulations to those guys. So now back to this investigation. The investigations now, the detectives, they've got to go all around. If they need help from the FBI, because we cannot trust the Guyana Police Force for this investigation. This is an investigation that is way too big for the Guyana Police Force, way too big for the Guyana Police Force to handle. And they cannot just call in those guys from CARICOM, those investigators that they brought in, and that's it. They got to bring in guys from Scotland Yard, maybe the Canadian Royal, maybe the FBI, bring them in so that they can be part of this investigation. Because whatever the Guyana Police Force say, since they are tainted, and I am not saying this out of personal reason that the Guyana Police Force is tainted. We already know who could know the Commissioner of Police better than I when it compared to a Critic. Critic is now learning this game. You know, the Commissioner of Police and we have known each other for quite a long time. Not all the time I agree with him, but there's nothing personal against the Commissioner of Police or even the crime chief, Mr. Blanham, whom I have known since he was a rookie cop. So uh, this lunatic critic who cannot think objectively, and for obvious reasons, he can't think. He doesn't have a brain to think properly. I wish he can use his brain as much as he uses his mouth and his tongue. Who knows, right? But so the my views of the Guyana Police Force is nothing personal. right? So these guys feel when you take an independent position, sometimes they think it's a personal position, and they do not have sufficient sense or reasoning to see past that. Now, when you have a Guyana police force that has diverted attention from a murder of a little girl in a pool, this is a senior police officer who has said to the family and friends of Adriana Young that she left in a car, a red car, with a guy named Orlando. Who could believe the Guyana police force? Who could? Who could believe the Guyana police force with all the drugs going into Guyana? And according to reports, drugs have been the importation of drugs into Guyana and the shipment of drugs into Guyana has increased 10 times. So here it is, you have a senior police officer who is linked to drugs. I am not saying it. We here at 107.1 FM, we are not saying it. This is what the report. Look, traffickers, they have been sanctioned. Look at those who have been sanctioned. One of them being a senior member of the Guyana police force. Sanctioned. He was placed on administrative leave, and that was the end of the story. And so, this very police force now, the hierarchy of the police force, they want to come to talk about another crime. They're running from crime to crime while they cover up. Apparently, the perception is they cover up different crimes. It depends on who the perpetrators are. And so, they have been very silent, the police force and the government of Guyana. They have been very silent as it pertains to this guy, the status of Hemnat Saw, Senior Superintendent of Police. The question is he still on the job? What is he doing? Now, these are important questions, but not for the likes of numbskulls like a critic who only see one way of working and just blah, blah, blah in his mouth. With a bunch of garbage, just for a little a pot of cook up or a pot of porridge or something like that. But they don't want to tell you, if you have a police force that is as contaminated as the Guyana police force, then any crime scene that they go to investigate will be equally contaminated. That is all. There are senior police officers who have failed polygraph tests, senior police officers who have failed a polygraph test, especially on the questions, do they have any linkage to criminals in Guyana, drug lords and so forth? They have failed it miserably. Then the same police force who cannot arrest a convict, this guy, Lorimer, whatever his name, who was convicted for fraud or whatever, and send him to serve his 6 months in jail. And these are the same people, the likes of a lunatic critic, want to tell you they put him out there. He's not even a salesman. He's a con artist, if you ask me, because that is the perception out there. And then you listen to him trying to put a guy down who was on the scene, according to the guy. Well, the guy's, it's Guyana. And not too many, the guy is brighter than critic, but the guy isn't that bright. He made things, he probably saw stuff, he saw what happened. But a sensitive area and a sensitive topic, he just put the guy out there, discredit the guy, call the guy a liar, call the guy a joker, and all manner of things, especially at this time. All because it doesn't fit his purpose, his skinty time. The guy said his car went up 20 feet. He might not mean 20. It could be 20, whatever else, 20 inches, whatever. Who knows? And so you condemn the guy without understanding what the guy is saying. But because you do not have much sense, as in the case with critic, no schooling, no sense, no experience, no nothing, you cannot expect better. All you get is just simply joke and condemnation and stupidity from his mouth. That is why almost everyone has to sue him every single time there's a lawsuit, because it appears as though he suffers from oral diarrhea. And so when he speaks, you see exactly what is coming out of his mouth. Now, let us get back to the police force. Last evening, and I know their bumps raising because they don't want you to be objective. They don't want people to be objective. They feel that people must believe everything the Guyana police force is saying. This is a young man who was tortured by members of the Guyana police force at the Sparendam police station. He was tortured into a confession. And there are other stories, lots of other stories, where men were tortured by members of the Guyana police force and forced into confession. This little guy, 14-year-old Theon Thomas, tortured and forced into a confession. And then there's a case with Shaka Chase and all these other guys. Shaka Chase was accused of murdering a policeman. And guess what? They 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 squeezed, you know where, they squeezed his two, you know what. And so he screamed and he basically confessed to a crime that he didn't know anything about. And lo and behold, a couple of weeks after, the DPP had to come out and say, hey, wait a minute, they charged the wrong person. Yet the police claim that they had a confession. There are lots of other situations where the police came out publicly to say that they have a confession. A confession. Now, I don't know. Critic and his former boss, Mohammed, and his friend, his good friend, Mohammed, they eat, they dine, they dance, they hug up, whatever else, who knows? I don't care, right? Critic was hinting at a murder, paper shards. Who knows? And so these are things they try to divert attention to make it appear that, they're the realest thing in Guyana. They're the most corrupt things, if you ask me, in Guyana. And so while the nation continues to mourn for this little girl, who died, who was murdered at the hands of a terrorist. Now, whoever the mastermind of this situation is. Now, I've heard him say that he didn't see this body go out, he didn't see this body say this. Yeah, in equal measures, we haven't seen much activities on the part of the PPP. We haven't seen any condemnation by the Private Sector Commission. We haven't seen, maybe we'll start seeing now, we haven't seen any condemnation by the Georgetown Chambers of Commerce. We haven't seen any condemnation by CIOG, which is the Central Islamic Organization of Guyana. We haven't seen any condemnation from the Mandirs. We haven't seen any condemnation from senior operatives of the Guyana, the so-called government of Guyana. We haven't seen it. But all we've been seeing is basically Irfan Ali in Saudi Arabia. God in heaven knows what he's doing there, pomposetting himself. And so because we're pointing out the hypocrisy, the bumps of the regime is just raising. It's raising and raising and raising. That is all. That is all we're saying. And they expect us to accept. Just accept what this woman is saying. Oh, so because she is the Minister of the Home Affairs, people must accept what she is saying. These are the same people who didn't want to answer a question when I think it was Gordon Mosley who asked about some men said to be Muslims from England. They were traveling through Trinidad. They came to Guyana and they were sent back to Trinidad or wherever. A simple question was asked. And anyone watching that press conference, you'll ask the question, one, if these are senior security operatives in Guyana, how come they weren't aware, assuming that the source is correct, based on Gordon Mosley's question, that they were men from the UK who happened to be Muslims. They were refused entry into Guyana. The question is, how many men? And why were they refused entry? And why were they sent back? That is all. And so because they beat around the bush and they didn't want to answer that question, it could be two reasons. That they don't know. Now, you're the chief immigration officer and you're the crime chief, both of them sitting there, of the country, Guyana. And you don't know of a situation where, according to Gordon Mosley, several men or several persons said to be from the UK traveling from Trinidad were refused entry into Guyana. Now, if that's the case, the proper thing to say that you're aware of the incident and there were 4 or 5 or 6 men who were refused entry, but the circumstances of which the police force will reveal at a later time. That is all. But because they beat around the bush, he doesn't want to answer the question. The commissioner of police said, he going to talk to Gordon, I'm going to talk to you. Gordon was correct enough to say, no. You're at a press conference. Don't talk to me privately. Talk to me now. Because when you have individuals, and now this has nothing to do with religion, that the bombing suspect came allegedly, according to the police, they're claiming he's from Venezuela. And then you have some guys who were turned back from the airport. Now, I'm not saying that because of them being Muslim or anything, but if the guys are turned back, then they need a proper explanation to the public. Not fully that they got to disclose everything, but say, yes, you're aware of the situation and you will give a more comprehensive response at a later time. That's all. But all of them beat around the bush. And if I am to read the body language correctly, they were unaware of that incident, maybe. And so they didn't want the public to see how ill prepared they are in areas that they should not, or how incompetent they are. Now you have the Minister of Home Affairs who should have been aware of that situation. And in my opinion, it appears as though she was totally oblivious, didn't know what was happening. And so they didn't want that to come out, that they're incompetent, and so they beat around the bush, which is what they do all the time. And so as we get back to this guy, people don't want to hear the same Nancy story over and over again, that the guy confessed. We have heard that story many times, that people have confessed to a crime, until when they reach now their lawyer or lawyers, and then we hear something different. We hear that it was a wrong interpretation, that this guy who, according to the police, he doesn't speak English, they have an interpreter. This guy, through his lawyer, can now say, no, I didn't say that. No, I didn't confess. Oh, no. The lawyer could say that his or her client didn't confess to anything. And so if that were to happen, what do you think, how you think the public is going to feel? What do you think the public, especially when the Guyana police force have a history of coming to you, the members of the public, to say that they have a confession, they have a confession, they have a confession. We have heard this story over and over again. And on that grounds, I'm saying to you, members of the public, to be cautious, especially when the police come to say they have a confession. That's all. But bumps raising, because people must conclude that it's just one angle and it's just their angle. And because you refuse to accept their angle, their bumps raise. Everybody getting paid. Who getting paid? Who this? Who that? Who that? Who you? Your madman syndrome, as we say on Benchab Radio. Bumps raise. And bumps are raising because they do not want you, members of the public, to think. They do not want you, members of the public, to be objective. They do not want you, members of the public, to look at this thing holistically from every corner. What could be the proximate cause of this situation? What could be the intent? Who could be the perpetrator or perpetrators? Is it about gold smuggling? Is it about that alone? Could it be about drugs? Because this guy doesn't study, the lunatic doesn't study in terms of gangs and warfare and these things. And so they want to convey this impression that it could possibly be one thing, and that is gold smuggling, according to that lunatic. One thing, gold smuggling. Do you know they have guys who have financed the PPP, are accused by U.S. law enforcement agencies and other agencies out in Canada and the UK of gold smuggling? Some of them are right underneath the PPP. Some of them help to finance the PPP and all of these different things. And so read between the lines. It couldn't just be about gold smuggling. It could be about fuel smuggling. It could be about what other stuff? It could be about drugs, because the amount of drugs drop off in the hinterland area, fake planes and fake airstrips and senior police officers connected to drug lords, whether it's a submarine, and it could be a whole host of things, not just one area alone. But these numbskull guys don't get it. And again, I said last evening, if I were part of this investigation, the first set of people who would have been interviewed, of course, the pump attendant, and of course, the guy who said his car went up 20 feet in the air. No, that's a different story. We can't dismiss the brother and say he's a liar, he's this, he's that, as what Looney Tune, that madman, did to the guy. And then the second thing, in terms of the first stage of the interview, you'd want to interview, apart from workers of the gas station, you want to interview the owner or owners of the gas station in order to ascertain, is there any problem? Do you have any problems with anybody? Have you received any recent threats? And whatever. Do you have any business in the interior? Are you into who bring in your fuel? And all these things. These are things you want to do as part of an investigation. That's all. But some numbskulls wouldn't know. They wouldn't understand that because it's their agenda is just one thing: to divert attention. They don't like critical thinkers because they can't think critically. They can't think objectively. In fact, in most instances, or maybe all, they just can't think at all. Read between the lines. And so, as we await, the police force should have gotten another press conference today to update members of the public. But are they going to do that? No. Have they stumbled upon anything that, or anyone that is connected to them? Who knows? But let me just create this here for you guys and put that out there. So this guy, according to the police, never visited Guyana. I bet investigations would prove that maybe he was in Guyana before. Maybe he was in Guyana before, but they don't want you. That is why we have to get an independent investigations into this matter. You can't take everything the police force tell you guys. You can't take everything the Minister of Home Affairs tell you guys. Because, you see, the first thing she's running, death penalty. Death penalty, just a dry death penalty. A guy killed a policeman the other day, and he got charged with manslaughter. But she didn't come out to criticize that and to call for the death penalty. But no, they rush to protect people as long as folks are connected to them. That is how the country is running right now. And so take a look at this here. They're not going to call for the death penalty for this here, right? Take a look at how this cop, a serving member of the Guyana police force, was murdered. Now, they're not going to talk about that. They're not going to call for the death penalty of that. In fact, they didn't even want the guy to be charged. I'm surprised they even reduced it to manslaughter. And these are just some of the things that the public have lost all confidence in the Guyana police force. And now, before I go, I want to make it clear. And we oftentimes do make it very clear that they are good members, honorable members, hardworking members of the Guyana police force. We salute those hardworking members. But because of the political connection by some of those senior ranks, they have contaminated the Guyana police force. And no police force can operate if they are puppets of corrupt politicians, and they are puppets of drug lords, and they are puppets of gold smugglers, because Guyana has plural gold smugglers, not one gold smuggler. Gold smugglers, narco traffickers, and fuel smugglers, tax evaders in Guyana. And most of senior policemen and women in Guyana, again, not all, are in bed with those individuals. And the question is now, how can the general public trust the Guyana police force? How can they trust the Guyana police force with what they're saying now? How can they trust the Guyana police force when the same Guyana police force rushed out about 2, 3 years ago to hold a press conference in order to cover up the murder of Paper Sharks? And the perception then was that they're covering up the murder in order to protect their friend. That was the perception then, Azruddin Mohammed. And that was the reason that they held that press conference, to protect Azruddin Mohammed. And while this case was, well, it appears as though they were investigating it, guess who was basically moving around and driving around, hugging up and kissing up and eating and getting millions and millions of dollars, and like you get a loopy dog or one of those stray dog and you rescue them? Well, he was rescued by the Mohammeds. He benefited from the Mohammeds in so many ways. So many. He didn't cut and run because of any investigation. That is what he does. He eat and he gone to the next kitchen. And so he rushed into Jack Dave's kitchen. It's just a matter of time before he leaves Jack Dave's kitchen. And God in heaven knows who kitchen he's going to go in. Maybe Maduro's. Maybe Maduro will be in a U.S. prison by then. Anyways, that's a wait word from the Guyana Police Force on any further update, and to give the public any information, how many persons they've gotten, and how many confessions. We want to hear that too, right? And maybe at some point in time, we'll see the other suspects, but we're not seeing the other suspects. Don't think the Guyana Police Force that they don't know what's going on. They know what's going on, but they're playing with your minds. They're playing with the public's minds, and they're playing with your lives as well. I hope they say something soon. They should give an update. But for now, I'm out of here. My name is Mark Bensham. And be careful with individuals, dunce thugs, who come to tell you that they are the realest thing outside of Guyana. Be careful with those dunce thugs. I'll see you later tonight, right here on 107.1 FM, the realest radio station coming out of Guyana. God bless you.
Say that he knew a tailor comes to making suit. The man is the master. If you show him a man coming round a corner, he could make him a suit and don't even measure. A talking about suit, sitting down correct, expertly made and fitting perfect. He used to sew for Shakespeare, make suit for Hamlet, and up to this day yet make a mistake yet. You know the crowd went wild. They couldn't cool down. I said lion losing the crown. The judges brought the crowd back to order and asked the lion to lie out a tailor. He said, my man is the best. Rolf is his name. Cutting cloth, making suit is his game. Don't show him the man, my tailor is class. Just show him the corner where the fella pass, and he gon' make a suit. That is tailor. You hear like King Liar. Teach your pussy say if you tell a lie, you're going to hell as soon as you die.